The Catcher in the Rye. The most banned, most overanalyzed, most kids this book changed my life novel of all time. And we're going to talk about it. Holden Caulfield, 16 years old, hates everyone, thinks he's smarter than everyone. We all know a Holden. Maybe you are a Holden. Okay, I think if you don't know one, you got some bad news. But here's the thing, Holden is annoying. He whines for 277 pages straight. He calls everyone phonies while being the biggest phony himself. But that's kind of the point. He's not supposed to be likable. He's raw, unfiltered, his teenage mind dealing with grief, depression, and disillusionment. And if we're being honest, I'm sure we've all had a few Holden moments. Holden Caulfield is kind of one bad day away from dropping an emo SoundCloud mixtape called Phony Society, to put that into perspective for you, okay? The track list, I bet, is just, complaint after complaint after complaint over some whack lo-fi beat. Someone get this man off Discord because he needs sunlight and he needs to touch grass and wipe the Cheeto dust off his fingers. It's becoming a problem. Okay, the entire book was just him being an incel, and it really upset me. But, we have to talk about other things, of course. The Catcher in the Rye is about a lot of things: loss of innocence, mental health, society being fake, but mostly it's about change. Holden wants to protect kids from growing up. He has this interesting fantasy about standing in a field of rye, catching children before they fall off some metaphorical cliff. I don't really know what that means. He wants to be a savior, of course, but it's also kind of helicopter parent, if you ask me. But here's the problem: Holden can't stop time. No one can. And I think that is why he's having so many problems, holding on or grasping or understanding that idea that he can't freeze time. Okay, he's not like, I don't know, there's probably some superhero out there that can do that, okay? But it's just not something that's possible in what we know. And I think that's his problem because, when stuff starts to happen, when time isn't frozen, stuff changes and it can't go back to, it can't be the original safety blanket or safety net that he always has to fall back on, because we don't, not a lot of people enjoy change. And people say, well, I enjoy traveling or I enjoy picking up new hobbies, but that isn't necessarily change on this level. Change is something that's big. Like, no one, I don't think, actually says I like to change schools every year, or I like to move my house every year, or I like to, well, a lot of people like rearranging their rooms. That's a different story, but it just depends on the person. Also, I want to address the elephant in the room. JD Salinger was real into the idea of innocence, like obsessively into it. Holden acts like he wants to protect kids from being big, bad, let me rephrase that. Holden acts like he wants to protect kids from the big bad world. But so did Salinger, and not in a like, oh, we should let kids be kids kind of way, more like he sent letters to a teenage girl kind of way. Big yikes, someone called the FBI. So is The Catcher in the Rye still relevant? Yes, but also no. Let's start with what doesn't hold up. The language, definitely dated. I don't think anyone really says crummy anymore, and the whole idea of flunking out of prep school and wandering around New York is kind of niche. Some of Holden's takes are also straight up bad. A lot of his takes about women, he's right there. He's, he's about to form a good opinion, but then like suddenly he diverges into like, oh well, man strong, women weak, must protect, and just whatever. But okay, what does hold up? The teenage experience, feeling lost, feeling frustrated, feeling like no one understands you, that's pretty much timeless. Social media didn't exist back then, but feeling disconnected, that's still real. Holden's biggest enemy isn't society, it's himself. Overthinking and self sabotage, very Gen Z, very on brand. I also have a compilation or a collection of quotes from some people that I know, people who are teenagers. Um, I chose people outside of the school, so you couldn't locate them, but it's just opinions. And so my coworker okay, at the library that I work at. I asked him, what is your opinion on Holden Caulfield? And I quote, this is not my own words, please believe me. I quote, Holden Caulfield has skibbity riz. And it's pretty legit. But regardless, I don't know. And that's how he ended the question. That's the statement. That's he just said regardless, I don't know. I don't the microphone's over here. I don't know. That's what he said. But anyways, I have a quote from one of my cousins. I asked her what's your opinion on Holden. She said Holden is full of himself. Holden is acting like the quote didn't finish. That's my fault. That's my bad. I think she said Holden is acting like a real jerk. Anyways, I also have a quote from someone who I go to church with, and she says that she thinks Holden is being a little dramatic, but she understands the situation. She's super nice, and she didn't want to give any more. Even though those are pretty light opinions, just a little example. But I'd also like to bring it back to where we started. Let's be honest. Holden would be ranting on Twitter at 2 a.m. about how society is so fake while ignoring his own reflection in the phone screen. He kind of needs a reality check and a new hobby, in my opinion. That's just me. So, is The Catcher in the Rye a literary masterpiece that speaks to the soul of any teenager, every teenager, or is it just some guy complaining for almost 300 pages? Yes, I believe it's both. In the end, whether you love or hate the book, you felt something, and that's the whole point of literature. Also, if I ever get called a phony, I don't think I'd be able to handle that, Holden. Calling people phonies. Anyways, peace and love.